Hi there, this is Morgan with Morgan Burke's Photography and Product Shop, and today I'm going to show you how to customize your font or your text in Photoshop. So the other day I got an email from a client and she told me that she was trying to use the text tool, but when she went to use the text tool, no matter what font she selected, it was always in caps, even if she wasn't using, the shift key or caps lock or anything like that. So she wanted to know how to get out of this. And this is actually not an uncommon question. I get this one a lot. So today I wanted to talk to you about how you can customize your text and also to answer that nagging question of how you can get those caps to go away if you didn't want them. So with your text tool selected, just hit this little button up here along the top bar of Photoshop that looks like a little tab divider, and that will pop up a window over here that says character. This is how you kind of tweak your font to look more like you want it, make it a little bit more unique to your brand. So the very first thing that I tell people, if your font is in all caps and you can't figure out what's wrong, check these two buttons right here. The one with the two capital T's and the one with the big T and the little t right here. This one is selected for me, so I just click it and then my font goes back to normal. So what these buttons actually are is this one with the two big T's, put your font in all caps, large caps. If you want smaller caps, you would use this one right here. So I usually use small caps for my watermark. I don't know why, it's probably the same, but I just think it looks, I don't know, cuter. And then I put some spacing in between. And this little option, this little window right here is for spacing. There's a V and an A and the arrow that looks like it's pointing in opposite directions. So, okay, getting a little bit ahead of myself. So my mouse has a wheel on it, and if I highlight this number right here and I scroll my mouse wheel up, it increases the size. If your mouse does not have a wheel, you can use this drop down menu here and select a spacing size, and then if you wanted to go larger with that spacing size, you can type in a higher number that the drop down menu doesn't have. So, and then the same goes for the opposite. If you wanted to make your spacing smaller, closer together, one reason I use this for is, let's say that I have, put this back to 0 really quick, and maybe, oh, okay, so making sure it's highlighted, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to just duplicate this text layer and then use my move tool to drag it upwards. And so if this one is just my initials, let's say that I want the initials to touch. I want them to look like they're connected. So you can use this spacing tool over here to decrease this font spacing and make them look like they're touching. And you can go as far with this as you want. If you want them to be super connected, you can keep going, all the way back. And again, this is a little bit off, but you can play with this here. I probably wouldn't give it, make it that close. Let me see here. Double click that again. Oops. Okay, so make sure it's selected and then decrease that. Well, I guess increase the spacing again. So like if you wanted to make it look like it was connected like that, that would be a cool way to do it. Just decrease the spacing, make sure the little edges of the font touch, and then it looks like, a little more custom. So there are a couple more techniques in here. So this one we talked about is spacing. This one right above it is actually for line spacing. So if you've got a paragraph, let's say that so we'll just write in. Oops. My computer's going slow. I can't see what I'm typing here. There we go. Okay, so let's say that this is my paragraph, and I think these spaces are too far apart, so I want to highlight this section. I did that just by double clicking, but you can also drag and select. And then here it's set to auto, so it'll try to auto size for you based on your font size. And then if you want it to be less than that, my font size is at 68, so I'm going to go below that and see about different space. Oh, that's too much. So again, if you have a wheel on your mouse, you can just drag that until it looks perfect. If not, you can kind of play around in here a little and just select different sizes until you like the spacing. So, maybe that works for you. You can also highlight different sections of the font, and you can make them, have different effects than the top one. Maybe I want that big spacing in Morgan Burke's, but I don't want it in the rest of my logo. So I'm going to decrease the font spacing there, maybe decrease the font size altogether. or maybe I want to decrease this font size and then increase the spacing. You can go so many different directions with this. But anyway, you can select different portions of this, and this is really helpful too if you've got one of those weird fonts, like a cursive font that you really love, but like the L's are a little weird. You can select just the one letter that's bothering you, and you can, tweak it a little bit. So let me delete some of this and show you a little bit more of how you can tweak things. So this button here, or this little window, is for the regular font size. You just go up for a larger font, down for smaller font. This one here is one I use a lot for cursive fonts. It's the spacing between letters, and this is another one that works really good for cursive lettering. Sometimes with fonts that are cursive, two letters will have a larger space between them than the rest of it, and it kind of looks a little funky, or it makes you read it weird. So what you do in this case is you just put your cursor between the two problem letters, and then you come here and you can select, whether or not you want them to be a little bit further apart. You would select one of these positive numbers, and then if you want them to be a little bit closer together, maybe the spacing is too much for you and you want to decrease it, you can use one of these negative numbers here, and that will just decrease that one particular space. All of the rest will stay the same, but just between those two letters will be affected. So I'll scroll down here so you can kind of see it in action. It's going a little bit slow, but that way it just affects one space. On a really uniform font like this, it doesn't really look great, but on cursive fonts where every single letter is different and has its own look to it, spacing is really helpful in that case. So I'm going to go back to 0 here. Oops, got a double click. No, it worked. Okay. Next thing is this. Okay, so let me select this. So let's say you maybe want to stagger this, or maybe in your initial, you want to just stagger the second letter or something like that. You can use this little button down here, and this one will lift or lower the letter that you select, or the passage of text that you select. So what you can do is, if you want to raise this letter up, you can increase the number here, and it will, hold on when it loads, sorry, and then it will be a little bit higher in conjunction with the other letter. If you lower it, it'll go down farther. So, goodness, going so slow, sorry about that. Okay, so there you go. So let's say that you want your initials to look like that, a little bit more staggered. That is a good way to do it. You just select the second letter, or the first one, whatever you want, and then adjust the height here. So yeah, hope that makes sense. And it's not necessarily the height of the font; it's just the like lowering the letter itself. There is a way to actually adjust the entire height of the font, and I'll show you how to do that now. Okay, so let me put this back to 0. Okay, so the next one is really good for different like quirky fonts, the handwritten ones sometimes. If one letter is like super like tall next to the other ones and it kind of just looks off-putting, you can select one letter, and then you can use this window right here, the capital T with the vertical arrow next to it, and you can use this to increase the height of one letter, or this one over here can be used to actually make that letter look wider. So I'll show you here. I'm going to scale up on this one, and it's going to stretch the B and make it super tall. But the bottom of the letter will stay in place with the rest of the font. So you'll notice it just makes it taller, makes it grow. So this is another way to kind of, if you liked that look, you can make a logo out of this, and it doesn't look like, just Times New Roman font. You've kind of tweaked it here to give it some uniqueness. So what I'm going to do is select that same letter again and go back to 100%, and then I'll show you this one, and that's how you make the letter wider. So, and this can be used, 1,000 ways, but usually I use these tools the most when I'm working with like cursive fonts or handwritten fonts, the ones that need a little bit of tweaking to make sure they're read super easily. So that would be how to make the letter wider. But again, it will stay the same height as the other letters in the line. So, hope that makes sense. Okay, a couple more things. Let me put this back to 0. Oops. Okay, let me see. I'll just use this one instead. Okay, so we'll touch on the buttons down here. So this one is, I'm going to undo that really quick. So this one will make your font bold, pretty common one to use. Sometimes when you deselect your font, it'll, shifts a little bit. So it might look super bold when it's selected. There you go. Can you see that? So when you undo it, it kind of fixes a little. I don't know, it's weird. So when it's selected, it might look a little bit more bold than it normally would. So you can turn that off. You can turn on the italics. This one, again, will put your font in all caps. And then this one here puts it in small caps. And then this one here makes it look like if you're writing fourth, the little TH that's lifted up. I'm sure there's a word for that. I can't think of it right now. So yeah, this is nice for, just making a small part of your text lifted. So I'm going to undo that. The difference between this one and this button here, where you can lift, lettering, is that this one here will actually make your font smaller. This button here, or this window here, if you increase this, it will lift your font without adjusting the size at all. So that's something to think about there. And then this one will make it look smaller, but at the bottom, subscript. There you go. Thank you, little icons. What's that one called? Superscript. Gotcha. Feel smart. Okay. So once you do that one, you can unclick it if you don't want it anymore. This one is underlining. So you can add an underline, and you can add a strike through. Never really used that one, but you're welcome to it if you want to. And then there's some other buttons in here. I don't really mess with these very much, but these are kind of like, I'm guessing, the edge of the font, how it looks, sharp or, oops, wrong one, smooth. I think if you zoom in here, it affects the edges of the font, but I could be very wrong about that. Smooth, strong. Yeah, I'm not seeing any difference here. Anyway, so let me just leave that where it's at. You're welcome to play around in here and see if you can figure that out. And if you do, send me an email, let me know. So, and up here I have a regular. There's also some different combinations in here. You can choose bold, italic. It'll do both for you. Some fonts that you download will have different variations. You can find those here in this drop-down menu. Different variations of the font. So maybe the creator of the font has already added in some of these little techniques to make the font unique. You can choose from this drop-down menu and click one of those and see what you think. So I hope this helped and also gave you some new tricks and techniques for updating your watermark. So if you have any questions, as always, you can email me at morgan@morganburks.com, or you can find me on Facebook at facebook.com/morganburksphotography. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great day.